even amongst us हर 5 में से एक बच्चा न्यूरोडाइवर्जेंट होता है। 3.5 करोड़ से ज़्यादा बच्चे हैं जिनको स्पेशल नीड्स है, जैसे ADHD, ऑटिज्म, डिसलेक्सिया एंड इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटीज़।
So how does Cogniti help a teacher in a crowded school identify a child who's actually struggling in silence?
ADHD affects me, or how autism affects me as an adult. I started to talk to more people about this.
So what is that one myth about inclusive education that you determined to bust through Cogniti?
I mean, the entire point of inclusive education is that you get everybody in a same classroom.
Yes.
And then it should work for everybody, because you do what works for you, right? If you can work 16 hours a day, work, but then find time for yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
ऐसी क्लासरूम जहाँ टीचर उसी भाषा में बोल रही है जो आप समझते हैं, पर आपका ब्रेन उसे एक बिल्कुल ही अलग कोड में प्रोसेस कर रहा है। फॉर मिलियंस ऑफ चिल्ड्रन विद ADHD, ऑटिज्म एंड डिसलेक्सिया, ये कोई व्हाट इफ नहीं है, ये उनकी डेली रियलिटी है। वो स्लो नहीं है, वो बस एक ऐसे सिस्टम के लिए इनविजिबल है जो उनके लिए बना ही नहीं था। और आज हमारे साथ जो गेस्ट हैं वो इसी कोड को चेंज कर रही हैं। शी इज़ अ डीप टेक फाउंडर जिन्होंने HEC पैरिस से लेकर यूनिसेफ इंडिया तक ग्लोबल रिकॉग्निशन हासिल किया है। शी इज़ बिल्डिंग द डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फॉर इंक्लूसिव एजुकेशन। पर इन अवार्ड्स और AI से पहले शी वॉज न्यूरोडाइवर्जेंट चाइल्ड herself, navigating a system that didn't see her. Please welcome the brilliant founder of Cogniti, Falguni Srivastava. Welcome, Falguni, and thank you so much for coming on our podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
फाल्गुनी, आप कहती हैं कि आपका काम आपके लिव्ड एक्सपीरियंस से जुड़ा है। क्या आप हमें स्कूल का वो एक मोमेंट बता सकती हैं जहाँ आपने खुद को बिल्कुल इनविजिबल महसूस किया? एंड हाउ डिड दैट लिटिल गर्ल बिकेम द वुमन बिल्डिंग टेक फॉर मिलियंस?
I don't think it's one moment that I can pin down, because it's a series of things that kept happening one after the other, and that made me feel like I did not belong in a classroom. And I grew up feeling that I was always a little out of sync in classroom. Learning was a little harder for me than others initially when I was like 7-8 years old. And because of that, like, I had classmates who were more social than me, or more open than me, or more vocal about their needs. They expressed their thoughts or their requests very openly, and I was not able to do that. Because of that, then when I grew up, I started seeing that I was losing opportunities, because I was having like very clear problems in my school life. And when I grew up later at 21-22, I got my diagnosis, and that is when I realized that okay, I was not the problem, it was actually the system that was failing me. And that is when I began to understand that this is what was happening over all these years. And all of the questions that I had as a child, I grew up and I started understanding those questions. So when that happened, when I finally started learning about how ADHD affects me, or how autism affects me as an adult, I started to talk to more people about this. And जैसे जैसे मैंने और लोगों से बात करी, और बच्चों से बात करी, पेरेंट्स से बात करी, I started realizing that it's a bigger problem than it seems to be. And even amongst us, हर 5 में से एक बच्चा न्यूरोडाइवर्जेंट होता है। There are more than 35 million children in India, यानी 3.5 करोड़ से ज़्यादा बच्चे हैं जिनको स्पेशल नीड्स है, जैसे ADHD, ऑटिज्म, डिसलेक्सिया एंड इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटीज़. But people think it's a very small issue, and it's not. So when I came to know about my diagnosis, and I started talking to psychologists and educators and parents, the same story kept repeating, like what I saw as a child, and like how I was struggling in classroom. I saw that story repeating for millions of children while I talked to parents.
Right.
And I was like, something is to be done about this, because the world is still the same like it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago when Tare Zameen Par came out in 2007. People started talking about neurodivergence and special needs and everything. And then the conversation just went dead. So nothing really changed. And that is what I realized, that something is not right. The system is not right, and something is to be done about this. And it starts with conversation, it starts with awareness. Eventually, we started talking about it because I came to know about it. And then my now co-founder, Jilika, also is neurodivergent. We met in college and we started talking about this entire, scenario around neurodiversity, because after COVID also there was a lot of awareness that was generated, and a lot of people were coming up online and talking about all of this. And yeah, eventually then we started to build something to solve this problem. Earlier it was meant to be like a, just sort of a community to connect parents and educators, but then we evolved it into what it is today, which is like a software tech solution that can reach millions of children at the end of the day. So that is where it started. I mean, from that 5-year-old kid that was me in school, who felt like did not belong, I felt like I need to change the system for similar children like me, so that years down the line nobody's left invisible in classrooms.
So, but many people view ADHD or dyslexia as disabilities, but you call it a different way of learning, right?
Yes.
So how do we shift the global conversation from fixing a child to actually fixing the system?
Exactly. I mean, when you label a child as disabled or abnormal, I think you lose it. You lose the war there and then. It starts with acceptance first, because all of us are different. It's not just, these specific set of kids that are just like coming from nowhere.
Right.
It's all of us. All of us are different human beings. All of our brains are wired differently. So even you and me are different. And these children just have a different way of communicating or learning, and we need to understand that. The first step is acceptance, that okay, we need to accept and we need to understand what is happening. Understand that these kids are not crazy or abnormal as people like to label them. And of course, labeling is very harmful for these children in the long term. So it starts with awareness and having conversations about what makes these kids different and how can you support them.
What was the first thing which make you aware that this is something I really wanted to do? It's just that your own since you were going through it, and that first spark which came, like, yes, something like this can be achieved, or in this world right now it has not been done.
So I mean,
what you are doing,
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, what Cogniti is doing, it has not been thought about any other person right now. Or yes, platforms and some things are there by government, but it is not actually making sense or like probably helping in actual sense. This is what actually I wanted to ask you.
So there are platforms, there are people already doing some great stuff around this. I'm not saying that there is nobody that has thought of this, but there are gaps that some of these platforms are not able to address.
Okay.
If I talk about some platforms or apps that cater to specifically special kids or consumers, the biggest problem with that is that you can't reach that amount of scale with just a service-based or consumer-based app. Or if you are very intensive on human effort, you can't reach a lot of children with just being confined to a service-based platform. So you need a combination of tech plus human expertise that can actually help you reach the last mile thing in a town, in a district, in a mandal. Because that is where the students are who actually need support. You have solutions in metro cities. You can send your kid to therapy if you can afford it.
Yes.
But what about the kid sitting in a tier 2, tier 3 city who doesn't even know that he needs some specialized kind of support?
Right.
To reach that kid, we realized that there are not many solutions or not many initiatives that can actually cater to such a population. And that is where we thought of building something that reaches even the students in the most remotest towns.
So, building deep tech is hard, and building it for the global is harder. So, what is that one myth about inclusive education that you're determined to bust through Cogniti?
One myth about inclusive education, I feel, is that inclusive education works only for children with special needs. Because, I mean, the entire point of inclusive education is that you get everybody in a same classroom,
Yes.
and then it should work for everybody. So
Right.
if it works for a special kid, then it should work for everybody. And inclusive education, research actually suggests that inclusive education has better learning outcomes for a child of all ability, like not just special kids. So that's a very big myth, and that is what we also think, and that is what our product philosophy has been. We use universal design principles, and we make our product as inclusive as it can be. So if it works for a child with special needs, it can basically work for anybody. It can work for me, it can work for you.
So there's a lot of fear that AI will replace teachers, and you use AI to make teachers more human. So how does Cogniti help a teacher in a crowded school identify a child who's actually struggling in silence?
Yeah.
How does it make?
So we never say that AI can replace educators. AI can only enhance and amplify their ability.
Right.
Currently, what is happening is that one educator has to deal with a group like 30 to 40 students. And you can imagine a traditional classroom with 60 students and a teacher teaching them. But imagine a special classroom with 30 special kids, and each child has a unique need, a unique ability that needs to be identified, and then
Addressed.
you need to give them usi level ka special intervention.
Right.
So teachers are currently overburdened. As I said, there are, like, this statistic is not recorded officially, but there are 3.5 crore children with special needs. और एक्चुअली में सिर्फ 1,20,000 trained special educators हैं हमारे देश में. So there you see the gap, right? There's one teacher for every 250 children. And currently teachers are overburdened. They work hours and hours in a classroom, and a lot of their work is heavily dependent on pen and paper workflows. So there's a lot of manual workflow that these special educators, therapists are following. And clearly, I mean, what happens is the children don't get the attention and the specialized individual support that they need from that teacher, because that teacher already has to see 30 other children. फिर उसको अपना पेपर वर्क भी मेंटेन करना है. Then she has to report to the admin.
Right.
Then she has to like deal with her own personal life also, because there's a lot of stress that you take. And eventually what happens is these children are left with no support and they're written off from the system. Eventually parents also are clueless, क्योंकि वो तो अपने बच्चे को भेज रहे हैं, but actually में support मिल रहा है उसके बच्चे को, they don't have a clue about it. And at the end of the day, schools also don't have the proper tools and resources to support their teachers. I think that is where we thought that there needs to be something for educators first. Before we try to start reaching the students, we need to support the educators and work with them to identify what their need is and then support them there, so that we give them the time they are losing out on doing all of this manual work and being overburdened.
Right.
So that वो time वो actually बच्चे के साथ बैठ के
So if I can ask, it's not in this, but
Yeah.
Can you, in very short or briefly, if you can tell how this Cogniti, that application of yours work
Sure.
with an educator,
It's an
so that our audience can understand that how maybe an educator
Yeah.
listening to us can actually, connect with you in that
Yeah.
manner. So if you can just briefly tell us about how does your system works.
Yeah. So Cogniti is basically a software infrastructure layer that helps institutions and governments to first identify and then support and track these children with special needs like autism, ADHD, dyslexia. So the first and most important part is identification, early identification of developmental delays in a child. That happens at between the age of 4 to 6. We work with these educators in schools to identify these early signs of developmental delays. It could be speech delays or problems with reading, writing, whatever. And then we work and automate the IEPs for the child. IEP is basically an individualized education plan, which is for a specific child, and it's a very important thing in special education. And what we do is we automate the entire cycle from identification to getting the right kind of intervention for that child. So we help these educators automate these IEPs, lesson planning, progress tracking, whatever is happening manually right now.
Right.
We kind of automated using the platform. And of course, on top of that, the human input is always there. So the educator can override whatever the AI is suggesting. That is why we say that the human input is always at the core, and AI is just helping you amplify whatever you're doing right now. For 2 students, we help you do it for 20 students.
So you take teachers training sessions and all in every school?
Yes, so we do training sessions with educators. We also train para-educators. So we also work with self-help groups like Kutumbashris and Anganwadis in the south to help them basically teach these students and screen these students in the most remote areas and grassroots level. And so what we are building is also like an AI co-pilot for educators to help them automate their workflows. And because progress tracking and all of this is also very manual right now. So what happens is, if I am a special educator, I have 40 students under me, and then kalko, if I leave the school,
so I need to have
I lose
the
that
records,
insight.
For the children.
And for the other educator who will follow after me will have a lot of difficulty to follow which child needs what and what is the progress that child has had. And they need to go through all the paperwork and then sit with the child, sit with the parents, sit with the therapist,
to understand
everything. That will take a lot of time.
Right.
But with AI, we can just kind of package that, and with technology, we give them that insight that is very easily transferable from class to class, from educator to educator. You can just within a click get that download of data and then use your own intelligence on top of it to start working from day one.
So how has been your experience with the institutions? Are they understanding the need, or it takes a lot more convincing, or if government has made it compulsory, then it'll be a different ball game? So how has been your experience?
It's a mixed bag. A lot of schools are very aware, and a lot of schools are very open to a solution like this because they see this problem and they know that the educators are struggling, and we need something that can help the educators and the children. So most of these schools, we have a few schools using our product and validating it on ground. And the one insight that we have gotten is we are able to save a lot of time for these educators.
So they're seeing the difference you're making it.
Yeah, because like I said, the IEP planning time earlier is in fact in real life, it takes months to come up with an IEP for a single child, because you have to sit with the parents, therapists, and do a lot of assessments and then come up with a proper IEP, which takes around 6 to 8 months. But with the solution that we've built, we are bringing the planning time down to just 2 weeks, which is like a 80 to 90% reduction. And that is what schools are observing, and we are able to save them time. Plus, the other thing is we are helping them increase the number of students they can intake or they can support at a particular time. So currently, if you're just able to take care of 30 students and you have one special educator, we give you the leverage to support 60 students with the same number of educator, or maybe one more. But we give you that leverage to, support more students.
So being recognized by the Chief Minister and UNICEF India is huge. How does a startup from this region scale to a global stage like a Women's Forum in Paris? How did you manage that?
it has been very humbling, all of this. But we never intended to like take our solution global so soon. And I mean, we still say that we are building for Bharat and our primary focus is the Indian market. But getting recognition at the global level has been very beneficial for us in terms of getting that visibility for a problem that we're solving. Because oftentimes you feel like, are we even playing the right game? I mean, will people even understand what we're doing?
Right.
And is this something way too ambitious that we have taken up? But when you get that recognition or visibility at a global level, like we were in Paris, we were in London last year, we were also representing Cogniti in Jakarta and Dubai. And again, in the US just this month, it gives us more motivation that something like this is even a bigger problem in the entire world and people are talking about it. So when we did get recognized or we came back from, Paris or London, whatever, people started taking us seriously.
So that acceptance,
the acceptance started to come, and I could see that the conversations were coming up. Earlier it was not happening. Earlier सब हमको पागल समझती, क्या कर रहे हैं ये बच्चे,
क्यों कर रहे हैं, कैसे करेंगे, how will they manage?
And even we kept doubting ourselves because people were like, every time we talked about something like this and we talked about, okay, we are building in this space, people would always be like, oh wow, you're doing such noble work. But it never really materialized into anything. You can tell us that we're doing God's work, but it doesn't do anything. Right. We're not doing God's work.
Right.
But after all of that, people started taking us seriously. There were conversations around neurodivergent, around disabilities, and the Chief Minister himself tweeting about that gave a very good signal that something like this is also needed in, states like Chhattisgarh
started.
And right. I got calls from parents from Bilaspur, Bhilai, all of a sudden, because they saw some news articles about what we are building.
Because there are a lot of people out there who are struggling and they don't know where to go, where to begin. And
so it kind of gave voice to all of those people. Right. And when they came back and I talked to them, I was like, I mean, this actually had a good effect. It's reaching people, and the number one objective that we had was creating awareness about the issue, right? Because it's a very deep systemic social issue. And जब लोगों ने बात करना चालू किया इस बारे में with the UNICEF India event or the random calls that I got from parents and educators, I was like, this is actually good because people are now starting to talk about it.
So when you started with this, so the deep tech and VC funding which you got, right? So can still, we still know that deep tech and VC funding can still feel like a boys' club. So what was the most audacious thing that you had to get your seat at the table? But it's not easy, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, globally, I think less than 2% funding goes to women founders. And we know that male counterparts are more likely to get funded easily. So I think, the most audacious thing that we've done is starting Cogniti and then taking it wherever we could. And it's just about showing up. There is a saying, right? If you don't get a seat at a table, build your own table. That's what we've done. We're building our own table wherever we go. And we have had supporters. We've had some good people who've actually pushed the door and opened the doors for us. So, it's just a matter of showing up and don't shrink yourself. That's what I've learned. Because earlier I used to shrink myself and then be presentable or be a certain way, be acceptable. But you've got to, because if you have such an ambitious goal, you have to be audacious. You just need to build your own table if you don't get a seat at the table.
So tell me, Falguni, for the neurodivergent woman watching, what is your unconventional productivity hack that would probably horrify a traditional manager?
My only productivity hack is there's no productivity hack. I work whenever I feel like, I work in intense, an instant bursts of energy. So I get work done in a matter of few hours. And there are some days I work through the night. बिल्कुल सोने का कोई होश नहीं है, खाने का होश नहीं है. But then the next day I feel like sleeping, I sleep. So it's about working how your brain works, whatever works for you. There's no particular hack that you need to follow to be somewhere. या फिर 5 बजे उठ के काम करो. If it works for some people. But for some people, working at 2 a.m. is also
works, yes.
great. So whatever
their brain
works for
starts
you.
working in the night time. Some people are like they're early risers, so they feel that they're more fresh and they have more energy to work early mornings. Yes,
I was an early riser my own whole life, but then sometimes, I mean, when you have to work through the night, you can't really
go through
so
that.
Yeah, I mean, you can use all kinds of productivity tools, use what works for you. For me, I think it always gets down to pen and paper. वो sticky notes, colorful sticky notes दिखेगा तो मैं काम करूँगी. It's also about like getting stuff done immediately. I think that's one hack that I follow. Whatever you need to do, just get it done immediately. If you put it for later, you will just forget about it and it keeps getting delayed. And the more I see tick marks that I've gotten this stuff done, it gives me more motivation and gratification कि हाँ ये काम हो रहा है, करते रहो उसको.
So, everybody has their own hacks to get motivated themselves. So, since you know that we had this podcast and this page is all about women entrepreneurship media, you being as a founder in social impact, the save the world pressure is real. And how do you protect your peace when your work is literally your life's mission?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. I think working in social impact is a little tricky because you're expected, as you said, to save the world. And as a woman founder, especially in social impact, you're expected to be a lot more nurturing and, very, I don't know, like people pleasing also in some ways. But then it also comes down to whether you can actually balance the impact side of it and the business side of it, because you can't build a business without money. And you can't change the world without money, of course. I mean, yeah, it's about finding the balance between being clear on what your business fundamentals are, being clear about what channels are you currently working on, prioritizing your business goals with impact goals, of course. Impact will always happen as a side side product of the money that you put in and the business efforts that you put in, right? If I'm not able to if I'm not able to get to or reach to my end consumer, then I won't be able to impact them. And for that, I need my business to be running. I need it to be operational.
To make a difference, you have to reach
be operational and
operations. Yes, definitely.
So, yeah.
So, on a lighter note, if I want to ask you, who was the one woman who held the door open for you when everyone else told you that your idea was too niche?
I would start by saying it was my mother who gave me the motivation to keep going. I mean, no matter what, she's always supported me. She never questioned anything. I started by taking a gap year because I wanted to prepare for NEET. But then halfway, I was like, I don't want to. This is not my cup of tea. She supported me. Of course, she was like, क्या कर रहे हो बेटा? थोड़ी बहुत गाली भी पड़ती. But then at the end of the day, she supported me. Then I went and did BTech. BTech के बाद I transitioned into product and then I started my own startup. She's always supported me. She never questioned or she never doubted me. She's like, जो करना है आप करो. I trust you. So I think she was the one person who always held the door open for me. Not just like held the door open, she was the person who like kept me grounded also all the time. And of course, we've had a lot of women mentors who have supported us from day one. We have our mentor from T-Hub, I mean, where we are incubated, Sheetal Shrikant. Mm-hmm. She's been the person who will also like, she'll praise us when we are good, but she will also show us the mirror when we are wrong. She'll be like, this is what you're doing wrong.
You
get
really
your shit
need that
straight.
kind
Otherwise,
of person in your life to take it forward.
She's always like that. I mean, she will show us the mirror and be like, get your shit straight. Otherwise, you'll go out of business and this is what you have to do.
So Falguni, you've mentioned that you've worked across early stage startups before starting Cogniti. So is there any perfect time when actually to leap into an entrepreneurship, or is it always a leap of faith whenever somebody's starting? What do you think?
I don't think there's a right time. There's no specific time that you should, wake up one day and be like, I want to start something. I want to be an entrepreneur. There's no time. And if you're someone who is waiting for the right time, then probably entrepreneurship is not for you. So it's a mix of leap of faith and whether you have conviction in what you believe you can solve for. So it always starts with what is it that you want to solve and why. Right?
Problem statement.
Yeah.
First.
I mean, when it comes to like being an entrepreneur, I always tell this, that pick a problem that you can fall in love with, because otherwise what you're doing is baseless. You don't have a foundation. So you need to have that conviction that you have this problem and I will solve it, and this is how I will solve it, then comes later. So there is no right time to start. But yeah, it's a mix of leap of faith and conviction in your idea and what you believe in.
So if a mother is watching this and just found out that his or her child is a neurodivergent, what are the first 3 words she needs to hear today?
I think acceptance. Acceptance is where it begins. These are the words I would like them to hear. Because it is hard being a parent of a neurodivergent child. I wouldn't deny. I've met a lot of parents. And when you initially find that out, you get very overwhelmed. But the key for you is to accept first and understand where your child stands. And of course, being a mother, you're expected to, do more. So you get a lot of, you are in a lot of pressure from the society. But yeah, I mean, if you accept your child and if you are willing to work with them as they are, then it becomes very easy. And your child is not broken. Let me tell you, they are not abnormal or they're not broken. They don't need to be fixed. They are just a unique little kid who just needs some special support.
So when we look back 40 years from now, like, the Ruby anniversary we are celebrating, what do you want the standard classroom to look like, thanks to Cogniti?
40 years from now, God, we're talking of 2065.
Yeah, maybe. Yes, why not? Because I really want...
Definitely, yeah. I would love to see inclusion being the default in classrooms, in schools, everywhere in the government. I mean, right now it's being talked as something that is good to have. And even in schools, even though there is some compliance there, it is mandated by the government to have inclusive education as part of every school's curriculum. It is still taken as a very good to have thing and on an ad hoc basis.
On an ad hoc basis, yes.
I would love to see a world where this becomes default. And of course, if we have a role to play in that, we'll be very grateful. Our vision, of course, for Cogniti is to make it the global stack for inclusive education, which means that it always starts with identification. And what we want to do is build like a global disability data set that gives the government and all the systems visibility into where these children need support and what is the prevalence, and then work for inclusion at the largest scale. So what will happen is we become the default operating system. What Aadhaar did to identity, right? It made it deeply local.
Right.
And the standard for identity in India, what UPI did to payments. We want to do the same for inclusive education.
Beautiful.
We want to build the infrastructure for disabilities in India and the global south.
High-achieving women often mask their neurodivergence to fit into corporate or social norms. So what do you think? What is the mental cost of masking? And how do you finally decide to unmask it?
So masking is I think it's a trait of high-functioning women. And personally for me, I've had to mask my entire life. Showing up in a different way. you also chase a lot of things, like you have to be very perfect, very put together, and you have to speak in a certain way. And I think that's also important in certain settings. You should mask a certain things and to get some
Say protocols and norms or societal conduction of how you're conducting yourself publicly. So yes,
yeah, I
but
mean,
we
there's
have
a
only
fine
created
line.
those norms. in a
Correct,
way.
correct. There's a fine line between, being presentable, being properly groomed, and
Right.
ignoring all of that. But yeah, I don't mean to say for any woman to stay confined within the conventional boundaries, because that is not what I have done. I would never advise anybody to do that. Masking in terms of, if you're in a room full of people and you have social anxiety like I do, but it's very important for you to network with people, because they will open doors for you and it's important for your business. If you're in a situation like that, you have to mask your social anxiety and be open to conversations. That sort of masking I've done a lot, but that has an effect on your well-being and your mental health if you do it.
So this is where I
continuously
guess
and regularly.
therapists and they come in between to help you to navigate through
Definitely, and that is where women are, I think, hesitant to ask for help also.
Yes.
So you should ask for help. You should basically ask for whatever you want. Don't hold yourself back. Yeah, like we were talking about, there has to be a balance of presenting yourself okay in a professional world, and then going back home and then unwinding and all of that. Because I think I work for hours and hours, but then I get my peace when I go back home to my mom and my dogs. That's where I feel most comfortable. And there has to be a balance. You can't just keep working 16-17 hours a day. As an entrepreneur, yes, you have to some days, but I don't want to glorify the hustle culture, because you do what works for you, right? If you can work 16 hours a day, work, but then find time for yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? You need your energy back, and that is when you can actually be productive. When you get time for yourself, you sleep and focus on your well-being also.
And these struggles are real.
Very real.
We can't, as you said, we can't glorify everything.
Yeah.
But yes, these are real struggles which is happening.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Falguni. That was lovely, and the way how you've put up everything beautifully. I'm I could have asked few more questions and
I would have loved to. This
to
is
you.
ending too soon.
So no. So since the camera is still on, so I want people, more and more people. Really, I want if my 0.5% also this podcast helps you with something going ahead, I would be really honored for that. So if you want to say something to the audience regarding your this project for this Cogniti, or how, why, and give us something end line or something very focused line, something which you can share with the audience.
For all the viewers of this podcast, I would like to urge all of you, especially parents, to start with acceptance in their own homes. If you are a parent of a neurodivergent child, start having these conversations with your child, with your community. And you're not alone. You just need to find your own community and parents with similar struggles or similar stories. And it always starts with those conversations. For educators in schools, I would like to urge you to incorporate inclusive practices in your schools, have these awareness sessions, have conversations around disabilities, because it's not, a tech problem or just a 1-point problem. It's more like a social or systemic issue, and we'll only be in that direction of solving it when we all come together as a community to talk more about this stuff. And when there is awareness, then there will eventually be execution in terms of what needs to be done to solve this. And of course, I would urge the government to also have more formal discussions around policy and what needs to be done to execute the policies that we already have. So yeah, I think that needs to be done. And of course, the dream of having a Viksit Bharat, as we say, cannot be done if these children are invisible in classrooms. For that Viksit Bharat to actually become Viksit, we need every child to be Sahit, Sashakt and Shikshit. So for all the parents, educators, therapists, or anybody who's in this space, we would urge you to be a part of the work that we are doing, be a part of our community at Cogniti. You can reach out to us via email. Our website is www.cogniti.com, and we would be happy to work with you. As I said, we can only solve this problem if we are together in this. So we would love to hear from you. We would love to have these conversations. Thank you.